Hi and welcome to the European Tour's Life on Tour podcast. I'm your host, Ewan Porter, and I'm joined by a European golf legend, Lee Westwood. Welcome to the podcast. I did see that on Instagram a couple of days ago that you were flying home. I assume you're back in the UK and you're honeymooning in quarantine, I guess.
No, we were honeymooning at the US Open last week. I got my new wife working, so. But yeah, I'm back in the UK now. I'm back in the UK now and back in Newcastle, sitting in the house, taking tests every couple of days, having stuff shoved up my nose and down my throat. even though I've been vaccinated.
Yeah, geez, it's an interesting one. I'm in Sydney at the moment. We're just going into lockdown for the next week, so we could do a whole podcast on that, but we'll digress. But yeah, look, I don't want to make this too much of a trip down memory lane. I mean, everyone is acutely aware of your incredible golf career. So I more want to focus on the resurgence and figure we start with 2018 and you win at the Nedbank Challenge in South Africa. It was your first win in 4.5 years. Your first win with Helen, your wife, your girlfriend at the time, on the bag. I can imagine it must have been a pretty emotional experience.
Yeah, very. I finished with Billy Foster the week before in Turkey, and he came up to me the week after in Dubai, and he's like, "Well, you could have waited more than a week to win your biggest ever check, couldn't you?" You know, I mean, we still get on, very well as mates, and it was, a lot of players win tournaments when there's a change of caddy. It's just strange that and different that my change of caddy was to my fiance, so now wife. So I've always played well at Sun City. That was the third time I'd won there, and I've lost in playoffs there. I just played well from start to finish. Played solidly on the first couple of days, and then shot a good round on the third day, and then a really low round the final day. So it was an emotional win, and good to do it with Helen right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, only a month before that, you were at Le Golf National in Paris as a vice captain to Thomas Bjorn there. Did that play a role in any way for that victory?
No, not really. I've played in many Ryder Cups, so, I know what goes on at them and, how well you have to play. I've been playing all right most of the year, but, just things hadn't been quite clicking for me, so... It was more that I think, having Helen on the bag to freshen it up and going back to somewhere that I played well before, good vibes from there, and put in a bit better that week maybe, made some good puts coming down the stretch, and certainly on the last day, which had been lacking, and ended up I think winning by 2 or 3.
Oh look, I will chat about the Ryder Cup for a second. You'd played 10 consecutive Ryder Cups from 1997 through to 2016. That was your first time not playing in over 20 years. What was your main role as vice captain there? Was it any different to what you anticipated?
No, not really. Although I had played 10 in a row, the last few of them had been more, people coming to me for advice like they would to a vice captain and things like that. So, I'd felt like a veteran from sort of early in the 2000s to onwards where, people had come up to me and, seek advice and ask what's going to go on and what's happening this week. The vice captain role felt more like, just watching the guys play and see who was playing well, because, sometimes how somebody's playing and the results that are showing, somebody could win a match, the first morning and not play that well and kind of get away with it. And, somebody else that's maybe partnering him could have carried the pairing through. So it was very much, being analytical and I think sometimes it takes a good player to see how the good players are playing. You could say that somebody's making, a few birdies, but they might not necessarily be playing well, so they might need a rest that afternoon. So ours was more of a watching brief, I think, as vice captains, and just to give a bit of our sort of views and impressions back to the captain, because I didn't realise how little time the captain had to go out on the golf course and watch some golf. His time's taken up with so many other things, with sponsors and meetings and things like that. He doesn't actually get around all the matches and see how everybody's playing. So we're kind of his eyes.
Well, look, I mentioned well, you mentioned the word analytical. I referenced your first Ryder Cup was 1997 playing under Seve at Valderrama, and the last one you played was in 2016 at Medina. Out of those 10 Ryder Cups and then what you saw in Paris, how much has the dynamic changed with regards to how analytical and the stats that are used to create pairings and wildcards, etc. now?
Yeah, they definitely rely more on statistics and facts now, and are much more analytical. You know, we profile the players a little bit to see how their minds work and see how, you know, kind of gauge how they want to be talked to and, you know, what makes them tick the best. You know, using statistics to pair players up, because, you know, what the impression of the way somebody plays is not necessarily actually the way they play it. You know, the statistics and those kind of things can be very informative when you come in to pair people up. So certainly over the last few years, it's been more what seems scientific than maybe it was when Seve was the captain, and you know, there was a bit more sort of charisma with Seve and kind of feeding off of him rather than bringing the team all together with statistics and facts.
Well, you've played under many different captains through those 10 Ryder Cups. Tell us about some of the different captaincies and the camaraderie and the way, you know, the dynamics been between captain and the players. I can imagine that's changed quite a bit through the years. Yeah,
I think you know, the view of the captain certainly over the last few years. The Ryder Cup itself's changed a lot. You know, it's become this big beast now. So, you know, the captain's job is much more intense, more sort of 24/7. You can see how a lot of the captains, their own golf has suffered in the 2 years leading up to when they're captain. You don't really have much time for your own game to practice. You know, even though you want to be out there playing with the guys and being close to them and seeing how they're playing, you know, it's tough to do that when your game's you haven't been able to commit the time to your game. So it's a tough job to play and captain. But you know, over the 20 years, I've had a lot of good captains, and you know, all brought different things to the job. Some have been more analytical, like Bernard Langer and Paul McGinley and Thomas Bjorn, and others have, you know, got on charisma, like, you know, Seve Ballesteros and Ian Woosnam.
You know, I guess 2021 with the Ryder Cup being in September at Whistling Straits, Padraig Harrington as captain, he's kind of defying what you said a little bit. I mean, he finished third at the PGA Championship and has been playing some pretty good golf this year. But it's a very realistic proposition that you'll be on that team come September for your 11th Ryder Cup. Is there a particular player that you would enjoy playing with, or perhaps a rookie that you'd like to take under your wing?
Not really, no. I mean, I was obviously a rookie in 97 and a rookie in 99, but learnt a lot that year, you know, being thrown out first in the singles. And then from there onwards, you know, I felt, you know, like a bit of a coming of age, you know, transition from rookie to, you know, more experienced player. And I've enjoyed, you know, playing with other rookies and trying to bring them through and kind of put an arm around them and letting them know what to expect. But I enjoy playing with the more established players as well. You know, the likes of Sergio and Darren, you know, I've got great records with. So I like to, you know, not sort of put pressure on the captain and say I want to play with this player or that player. I just sort of make myself available to play with anybody. I get on pretty well with most of the people that have been on the team. So, you know, I'm there to be paired with anybody, really. I'm a pretty easy team member.
Well, I'm sure you have plans to play on at least a couple more Ryder Cup teams, but being the captain of Europe, I'm sure that's something that whets your appetite in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to be. You know, it's an honour to represent Europe, and it'd be an honour to captain a team, you know, with you know, represent those lads as well. So yeah, I mean, at some point, and probably not too far away, I'd like to throw my hat into the captaincy ring, whether it's Italy. You know, that women being 48 at the moment, I guess that'd be about the right age to do it when it's in Rome. And you know, it's been mentioned. We'll just have to see how I keep playing, really, I think.
Well, I mentioned your win at Nedbank in 2018. Fast forwarding to 2019, no wins that year, but certainly some good finishes. Dubai, the Open Championship, and then again at the Nedbank at the end of the year. I was there at Portrush for the Open Championship, and that was my first time seeing it. And incredible links layout. I mean, I know the weather was pretty disgusting that final day, but it was obviously a golf course that took to your liking. And also, do you see it as a venue that should be on the Open rota going forward?
Yeah, I'd not played Royal Portrush since the Amateur Championship back in the early 90s, and I'd forgotten how good it was. And obviously they changed a couple of holes as well, and got rid of the old 17th and 18th and brought the ones down in on the dunes at the far end, which are fantastic holes. And it really went straight into the top three, if not the top, right, number one of Open Championship venues for me. You know, I really enjoy Birkdale. I think Muirfield's great. But I think Royal Portrush might be the best of the lot. Well,
2020, it didn't take you too long to hoist a trophy, winning in Abu Dhabi in January, and then obviously COVID impacted the tour for a few months. Upon return, 6 consecutive top 20s, which culminated with a runner-up finish at the DP World in Dubai and winning your third Race to Dubai title. That was a pretty wild finish there. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was a case for just playing golf really and doing your best, especially over those last few holes. You know, nobody could predict what was going to happen over the last few holes and who was going to make birdies and who was going to drop shots and where people were going to finish in the field and who was going to win the Race to Dubai. So that was a classic example of, you know, just taking one shot at a time and trying to, you know, make the best of it and shoot the lowest score you could and make birdies wherever. So yeah, it was an exciting finish. And at one point, you know, Matt had I think he had about 4 or 5 foot of a bogey on 17, and not only did I look like winning the Race to Dubai, but also winning the tournament as well. I mean, he knocked it 3 or 4 feet past on the last. So, you know, everything was up in the air coming down the last few holes.
Well, that good form carried over to this year, to 2021, and back in March, consecutive runner-up finishes at Bay Hill and then the Players' Championship in Florida. You're in the final pairing on Sunday, both weeks, playing alongside Bryson. Now, you've played alongside Tiger in his prime. You've pretty much seen it all, but I know from the outside, seeing the hoopla and the spectacle around Bryson and the way he was going about things, was it as wild as it appeared from the outside, being right there alongside him?
Yeah, I don't think it's comparable to Tiger. I mean, he took it to a new level. But certainly, I like playing with Bryson. I like what he's done with his swing and in the gym and what he's brought to the game. He's shaken it up a little bit and changed the way people sort of view playing golf courses. You know, the more traditional way, especially at the major championships like the US Open. He's kind of given people food for thought on it, you know, another way to maybe play certain golf courses. So yeah, he's interesting to watch, and he says a few interesting things, but you know, on the whole, I think he's fun and good for golf.
Well, what's you referenced the golf courses there? What's your philosophy on that? Because it seemed for the longest time, particularly in a US Open, it was all about tight fairways, thick rough. You know, you had to keep the ball in play, and then there's, I guess, with social media, there's a lot of conjecture these days about how golf courses are designed, and a lot of people saying that fairways should be wider, there should be more runoffs around the greens. What's your take on it?
Well, that's the trouble with social media, isn't it? Everybody gets on there and everybody's got an opinion. And they're normally misinformed, aren't they? So, you know, you look at Bryson, the way he won at Winged Foot, and he putted really well that week. You know, for the distance he hits, he's very accurate as well. Yeah, he probably missed a few fairways, and that was highlighted that, you know, he hit it so far up there that most other people couldn't get to the green if they missed a fairway, but he was only hitting a wedge on. There'd been a bit of rain as well, so the greens were holding. Wasn't possible to do that last week at Torrey Pines, and he got found out eventually, didn't he? You know, holding those greens, and there's a bit thicker stuff around the green. So, you know, there are going to be weeks where that format that he employs works, and there are going to be weeks where it doesn't. So, he's got a lot more shots to his armoury than everybody thinks. He's not just just having a slash at it. if he needs to play a little knockdown iron shot against the wind, he can play that, and he's got a bit of feeling there as well. So he's done well to bulk up and hit it a long way, but also retain the feel. And his short game's got better over the years as well. I remember coming down to the Australian Open a few years back at the Australian Golf Club in Sydney, and I played with him in the third round, I think. And whenever he could get the 7-iron out and chip and run it onto the green, or even put it onto the green, he did it. His short game was quite poor, so he's obviously worked on that considerably the last few years. And you can't win a US Open without a good short game.
Yeah. Well, look, you said you're a fan of what he's doing in the gym and that as well. I'm interested to hear your philosophy on that, because I know when I was playing 10, 15 years ago, there was a handful of guys in the gym, and not only is everyone in the gym now, but there's a lot more guys taking the Bryson route and benching 100 kilos or 200 pounds and squatting and deadlifting and doing all of this. Is it going to impact their careers long term? Are we going to start seeing shorter careers? Is that a problem? I mean, should they be worried?
Listen, this is not a new thing. I started doing this, 13, 14 years ago. I started looking at the players that were top of the world rankings. You had the likes of Tiger and Ernie and Phil and VJ and Retief. Big, strong lads, big shoulders. Golf course was changing even back then. It was possible to get it a long way down the hole and gouge it out of the rough. So this has not just happened, in the last 5 minutes. And as for career length's going to change, I think they'll get longer if anything. These lads are going in the gym and making themselves stronger, but they're strengthening up in the right areas. This is the stuff that they do is very specific, and it's preventative. It's going to stop them getting injuries rather than create injuries. They're making themselves bigger so they can swing the golf club at faster speeds, and the muscles that they're building up, are going to protect them rather than hurt them.
All right. Well, I was going to come back to your marriage, and a couple of weeks ago you married Helen in Vegas. Talk us through that experience.
Yeah, we got tired of putting it off. Really, we planned to get married last year and rearranged it about 3 times, and then we had plans to do it sort of in August time this year. But when we were going to kind of that way and going to the US Open on the West Coast, I said to Helen, "Do you fancy getting married in Las Vegas?" And she said straight away, "Yeah." So. We planned it about 4 weeks, or Helen planned it about 4 weeks in advance and did all the preparation for it, and kind of just turned up, and the Bellagio, the good people there, and a friend of mine called Arnie had it all in place. So it was a very slick wedding, no drama really. We had a great time.
Well, when you referenced when you won the Nedbank Challenge, that was Helen's first week on the bag.
Oh no, she was on the bag before that actually. She was on the bag a year and a bit previous to that. Unfortunately, Billy's dad died, and he rang me and said, "I can't go to Abu Dhabi this week." So Helen was just stood next to me. She said, "Oh, I'll do it." So she came out to caddy for me in Abu Dhabi, and we finished about 8th that week. And then Billy came back, and we carried on. And then Billy couldn't do another week, so Helen said, I'll caddy that week, and it was the week of Denmark, and I lost in a playoff to Matt Wallace that week as well. So she had a pretty good record before the Nedbank even came around. So she's got a pretty good average.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, having a significant other or a spouse caddy for you, that can certainly present its challenges, but it appears to be a great dynamic between you two.
Yeah, we got on really well, and obviously on the golf course, Helen knows that the decisions with clubbing and yardages and wind direction and things like that, they've all got to be mine at the end of the day, and that's really the way I want it. I felt like when I was working with Billy almost had too much input and was kind of telling me the way he'd play it, whereas I wanted more responsibility to get it clear in my own mind. So I do have that now. There's only really my opinion, but the great thing about Helen is she knows me mentally better than anybody else, and she listens to my psychologist and picks up tips from him. So she's really able to be a psychologist out on the golf course for me, and keep me in that nice place of focus but relaxed.
Is it fair to say, having Helen there alongside you out on the golf course, has she helped to necessarily say rejuvenate you, but certainly inspire you as well the last 3-4 seasons?
Yeah, definitely. Give me a new way of kind of approaching it and looking at it, and a more fun way of looking at it, and I'm able to just treat it for what it is, really, just a game. It's not life or death, and just be really relaxed about it. Have perspective about the game.
Well, you spent the bulk of your career living in the north of England where you grew up, but you did have a stint for a couple of seasons over in Florida. You're back in the UK now. Tell me about the Florida experience, because I know, having spent 10 years in the US myself as a foreigner, I mean, I loved it over there, but there's certainly a lot of challenges that are presented when you are a foreigner, and it is a foreign land. And I know you were in West Palm Beach, which is a golf mecca, but how was the experience there, and why the move back to the UK?
Yeah, I think if you're going to play the PGA Tour full time, be serious about it. Maybe not, split the two tours like I do. I think it's essential that you really live in the States, especially the way the format is now with the FedEx Cup, and if you miss a few weeks, you drop down that. So I think it's important to look at the way your schedule is going to be and what exemptions you've got, and your life around that. I now play both tours, and are living back in the UK. Most of my family is here. My daughter still lives in Florida with her mum, but it makes sense to just live here at the moment. If I'm going to play in the States a little more, maybe I'll look at getting a place in Florida. I'm exempt for the next year or so, or year and a half, and then I'm 50, so I'll be playing Champions Tour events. So who knows what the next 3-4 years is gonna what it's gonna present. Like we were talking earlier, if I did get the Ryder Cup Captaincy, that's obviously the one I'm looking to is going to be in Rome, so that's more this way as well. So there's a lot of balls to juggle and plates to spin at the moment.
Well, it was actually going to be my next question. You did say that you'd join the Champions Tour. I mean, at 48 years old, is there plans there to split the two tours like Phil's doing, or will you solely focus on one?
Well, if I keep playing well and I keep keeping my card on the PGA Tour, there could be 3 tours to juggle. So that's a lot of paperwork, getting those 3 schedules out in front of you and picking which tournaments you want to play. It's hard enough splitting the European Tour and the PGA Tour at the moment, without throwing the Champions Tour in and senior majors and things like that. So there will come a time where, I'm not competitive on the main tours anymore. So, and I'll focus myself more on the Champions Tour. But while I'm competitive, I like going out and testing myself. You want to test yourself against the best players in the world, don't you? So while you're competitive and you still think you've got an edge and you can contend, I want to go out there and, show the young lads what I've got.
Well, does Phil winning at Kiowa at the age of 50, does that do something to inspire you?
Yeah, definitely. But, do you not think that was helped by maybe winning a couple of Champions Tour events the previous few months running into that? Gave him a taste of winning again, and, getting under that pressure of, trying to win a tournament, and then maybe that helped him out when it came around to the PGA Championship at Kiowa. So one can help the other, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to knock him off his perch as the oldest major winner?
Well, who knows? I don't play the game now trying to put any expectation and pressure on myself. So, I try and go out and just enjoy whatever tournaments I'm playing in. I'm 48 years of age and I'm still 27th in the world and getting into the Masters and the US Open and the Open Championship and all the big events and the World Golf Championships. So rather than, looking at them and putting pressure on myself saying, yeah, I want to win that one or I want to win this one, just go out there and enjoy just being involved still.
Well, Lee, it's obviously well known your affinity with horse racing. You had Ascot last week. I guess going forward, is there going to be a little bit more focus around the horses?
I've got about as many as I want at the moment. I'm involved. The more you get, the more bills you get, the more you end up paying out, and they eat while you're asleep, which isn't part of the problem with horses. But yeah, I'm involved in about 12 at the moment, which is a good number, but both jump and flat. So hopefully down the line I'll get a few more runners at Ascot again. I've got 3 going at Musselburgh on Monday, which might all have chances. So it's other sportsmen, they play golf when they want to get away from their sport, but golfers, what can you do? You can't well, although I have started skiing in recent years, it's maybe a little bit dangerous, but horse racing, has always been a passion of mine. And, when you earn a few quid, got to spend it on something. So, got into horse racing a few years ago now. And, it's a good distraction from golf. It's, it takes my mind off it, and it's a good day out.
Certainly is. I've only been to Sandown there in the UK. I haven't been to Ascot, but a wonderful experience. Your affiliation with Close House and hosting the British Masters, which is it's been revitalised the last few years, and the European Tour. They've been doing a great job in having Danny Willett, Luke Donald, yourself, Justin Rose hosting the event. That must be... you must be full of pride, I guess, in hosting such a prestigious event at a venue that is close to your heart.
Yeah, I've been associated with Close House for about 10 years now. So, and I've just signed for another 5. So, it's a great association. I got on well with Graham, Wiley, and everybody up there at Close House. It's a good golf course, as it showed when it's hosted the British Masters a couple of times. And having been a past winner, I know it's a very prestigious trophy to win. And it's a prestigious championship to hold, at your course and be the host of. So it's they've done it. Pre-COVID they started it up, and about 6 years ago now, and having a English or a British host, and that Sky and got involved early on in the European Tour. And it was a great idea really, and hopefully they'll do it a few more tournaments. To try and lure better fields in, and we've gone to some great English venues so far, and maybe with it being the British Masters, they'll move it around the UK a little bit more now. Obviously, Close House has had it, and Woburn, and the Grove, and the Belfry, Walton Heath, and I think it's getting back to the prestigiousness of where it was at before.
Yeah, it's great to see, isn't it? And what about the junior golf scene? Robert Rock, he has a junior golf tour throughout the UK. I've just noticed recently that Tommy Fleetwood's put his name to a junior tour as well. Is that something that interests you? Are you going to get more involved with grassroots golf there in England?
Yeah, I've run junior events for 20 odd years now, so it's nice, when you become a more established player and you get a name. It's nice to put something back into the sport. The English Golf Union were only on this morning about becoming an ambassador for the English Golf Union, which interests me. I came through the amateur ranks and played for the England boys, youth and men's teams. So it's nice to give a little bit back and find the superstars of the future.
You mentioned before when we were talking about Bryson that you played with him at the Australian in Sydney, which is 5-10 minutes up the road from where I am right now. One of the very first tournaments that I remember watching on television, not trying to make you feel 48 at all, but when you won the Australian Open, beating my hero at Metropolitan in 1997. What I'm trying to say is, are we going to see you back down under post-COVID? We're going to see you play here again.
Well, it was my hero too, Ewan. So, growing up, I wanted to be just like Greg Norman, the way he played the game, that swashbuckling style, and went for all the flags. And sometimes it cost him tournaments, but, great to watch, wasn't he? And, that's one of my favourite wins, beating him in a 4-hole playoff for the Australian Open in 97. If not my favourite win. And, once this is, all over and Australia opens its borders up again, it'd be lovely to come back down there. It's one of my favourite places, especially Sydney. Sydney's one of my favourite cities to visit. Some great golf courses down there. Yeah. I remember going down there in 1994, my first ever year on tour, and playing a New South Wales Golf Club in Royal Sydney. And it was just an incredible trip, and we had a great time.
I want to ask you about technology. When you turned pro there in the early 90s, it's come a long way in 28 years. And again, like I mentioned with course architecture, there's huge conjecture, not just on Twitter, but certainly within the game itself about rolling the golf ball back and have club heads gotten too big. What's your take on it all?
Well, I wondered where you were going when you said technology, because I'm probably the worst person to ask. If you were asking me to work an iPhone or something like that, I'd barely turn it on. But they're going to find it really difficult to turn technology back. Where else in the world really do you stop progress, which is exactly what it is. It's the golf club manufacturers and the golf ball manufacturers, there's a set paper of rules, and they've stuck to them, and they've just tried to improve all the time, which is what everybody tries to do in life, in whatever role they're in. And it's virtually impossible to tell them, you can't be as good as you are now, and roll it back now. So, that horse has bolted, I'm afraid, as far as I'm concerned.
At 48 years old, you're at a time in your career where a lot of players have walked away, they've had enough, they're pursuing other interests. We've spoken about the inspiration, but you appear to be have as much desire and be enjoying it as much as you ever have.
Yeah, I think that obviously physically you're not quite as strong as you get older, and maybe not so flexible. But I think it's the mental side of the game that really starts to golf's a really mental sport, and I think it starts to get to you, and it drags you down in certain areas. You also get other priorities in your life, with family and things like that. So. But I've still got the will to go out. I was in the gym before I came on here with you, so I've still got the will away from the golf course to do the hard work and put the hard grafting away from the golf course that nobody sees. And whilst I've got that, I think I can keep my game to a good enough level where I can contend and keep giving myself chances to go out and play well.
Well, post playing, whether all is said and done at the age of 55 or 60, 65, whenever it is, do you see yourselves remaining in the sport, or are you going to happily wander off into the sunset?
Who knows? I'm not putting any time restriction on it or limit on it, and just having fun with it. While I'm still motivated to keep working hard, then just keep ticking along, see what happens. I still love playing golf. I love playing golf. So, why would you kind of look for the end of that or wish that to end? I love going out and practicing, and I still enjoy all that aspect of it. So, golf's given me a great life. So, I want to keep doing it and hang on to it as long as I can.
Is there anything specific you've done to retain that passion? Because it's very easy to burn out and get sick of it. I mean, have you been more specific about the way you've practiced as your career's gotten on? Have you spent less time out there, more time enjoying the cities and the places you visit?
Yeah, certainly over the last few years, taking a bit more of it, all in, the travel and maybe not, drilled as many balls on the range after play and things like that. Maybe taking time to, look around at the cities that I've been to. I've played a little bit less as well, over the last few years. Although this year, I can feel right now in the middle of the season that I've played a lot this year. So, maybe rein that in a little bit. It's looking like being 28 tournaments this year or 29, which is probably 5 or 6 too many. So maybe next year play a few less. But I'm in a comfort zone where I can, pretty much dictate my own schedule and do my own thing, and not have to play in events where I don't want to be there.
You spent the first half of the year predominantly in the US. The second half of the year, are we going to see you remain predominantly in Europe, or will you go back for the FedEx playoffs and obviously Ryder Cup as well?
Yeah, a lot of it's been kind of COVID dependent, and the fact that America's a lot more open than Europe, and the restrictions aren't as harsh. It's been a lot easier to play in Florida and Texas and places like that than it has in Germany, and unfortunately, and the UK. The next few weeks, I'm going to be in Scotland and the Open Championship, but then after that, because I've done so well on the PGA Tour, I'm 40th in the FedEx. I'm going to be over there playing in the World Golf Championship, and then seeing how far I can go in the FedEx playoff events. Then a little bit of a stint back in Europe, and then towards the end of the year, I'll probably play a few more events on the PGA Tour again. Try and get off to a good start in that fall series that they have, because if you don't play at the end of the year and get off to a decent start, you find yourself a bit behind the 8 ball for when next year starts up again.
Well, we certainly wish you all the very best for 2021 and beyond, and thank you so much for coming on the Life on Tour podcast today. We look forward to watching the rest of the year play out.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ewan.
To watch another European Tour video, click here, and to subscribe, click here.